Hello, everybody. Welcome to yet another edition of 18 Minutes with 180 Markets. Friends, there's strategy and there's also execution. And in my opinion, there's too much time spent on strategy and not enough spent on execution. But that's why I'm so excited today to have Magnetic Resources, a gold company led by long-term and experienced, not only operator, but investor, George Sakalidis, because George has executed on a plan and is going to continue to maximize shareholder value. And here to talk all about it, hey, George, welcome to 18 Minutes with 180 Markets.
Hey, good morning, Greg. It's good to be part of the interview.
Great. Hey, George, everybody's got a background. And as I alluded to, you have a great background and are a proven moneymaker, so to speak. Can you just tell us in a couple of minutes about yourself?
Look, I've been, running a company since about 2000. First company, Magnetic Minerals, actually got taken over, so all the shareholders made a lot of money. That was a mineral sand company. Then I floated 4 companies, Meteoric, Magnetic, Emu Nickel, and Image Resources. Image Resources, I found all their mineral sand deposits, which are in production, and they're making a lot of money at the moment. So generally, I'm very good at making discoveries, but also running the companies as well. So keeping a tight ship and making sure all the work gets done in the field, targeting good areas. And I guess Magnetic Resources is another example of major discoveries, not in areas where people have looked before.
Right. Hey, George, and speaking of that, maybe getting right into Magnetic, can you just talk about, Hawk's Nest and, really the company making type of projects? And maybe also, if you could just provide investors with a little bit of background, that would be great.
Okay, we picked up the tenements in 2016, but started work in 2017. We didn't start in the areas that where all our deposits are now. We started to the north, but we made our way to the south based on interpretation of ground magnetics and soil geochem and a bit of geology. And we laid out soil sampling programs about 5 kilometres south of where we've been working. And then we discovered that the Hawk's Nest 9 soil anomaly, which was about 2.5 kilometres long, 400 metres wide, 0.2 to 0.6 grams in the soil. So it's a very significant soil anomaly. Once we found out, we knew this was going to be very, very interesting. And that Hawk's Nest 9 deposit was the first deposit we've drilled. And that's the one that looks pretty good and starts on the surface, no strip, no cost to remove the overburden. And so we've been drilling that over the last 3 years. And only last year we discovered what's called Lady Julie, which is about 3 kilometres to the east. Now this one has amazed everyone in that we're getting shallow intersections, 24 metres at 4 grams, 36 metres at 2.6 grams, and generally from surface, from the top. So not very down deep. So we've had, at least 40 major intersections there. So that Lady Julie area is growing, and we think it's going to be up to 1 kilometre in length. And then only last year we bought another tenement called Lady Julie 4, which is about 2 kilometres to the north, and that's interesting as well. So the Lady Julie tenements have the thick intersections, which are quite robust and look very, very interesting. So that's a bit of a history. Obviously, there's a lot of work that's gone on. So we've mainly been drilling. We've drilled 110,000 metres of drilling, which is about 1,500 drill holes. So a lot of drilling.
And you mentioned thick intercepts, okay? And for us non-geologists out there, can you just explain to us why that is so critically important?
Well, yeah, I guess these deposits start from surface, and when you're mining, a lot of the costs come from removing the overburden, which is unmineralised. In this case, they start at the surface. There's no overburden, so you're straight into the ore. So the costs will be minimal, I guess, in the lowest quartile. So we're working on the figures now, but we expect them to be very, very low. So that's the reason why we've been drilling these out, because that's the main game, to find shallow ore. Obviously, if we find deep ore, that's great. The shallow ore is where you make all the money.
Right. And I think that, that goes back to the point about execution, what I started with, which is that if you're going to be a lower quartile cost producer, that really gives you a margin of safety, and B, the reality is, or the practicality of it is, for investors, they can really make a buck off of this because we don't know necessarily where the gold price is going, but if we can control our costs, we can always make a margin. Is that something that you think about, or is it just the way that kind of the project developed?
I guess once we knew it started from surface, we kept going and going and going. So yeah, we knew that was very important because there's a lot of deposits which remain in the ground which are too deep and uneconomic, but these will do very well.
Yeah. And then, and I suppose, and again, I want to keep on this theme with that, you've made money for investors. Turning towards where the company is now, because you do have a company making project out there, you're not a very, very small company anymore. You've recently hired Jefferies to explore alternatives. Can you just tell us a little bit about the strategy behind that?
Look, we think there's a lot of producers in the area. There's 3 producers. Goldfields, a big international group. They have the Wallaby mine, which is only 15 kilometres away, and a processing plant as well. Basin are only 10 k's away, and they've got a mine and a processing plant. And Anglo Ashanti are 35 k's away, and they have the same thing. They're big deposits. Anglo Ashanti is a 16 million ounce deposit. Goldfields is a 7 million ounce deposit. Basin is about 1.3. In all cases, they're looking for more ore. They need ore to blend. They need ore to make sure that they're operating for the whole month. Because the 2 big companies are mining deep underground, they just can't get enough out in time. So they need to have other material to blend. So we're in a great position with those companies. There are other producers in the area. The M&A space is huge at the moment. We understand that. We really don't want to be party to building a $250 million plant when there's 3 next door. So we're trying to monetize or get interest in what we're doing, and we think we've already got it. Jefferies were a natural selection for a corporate advisor who know all the players, know all the directors, worldwide experience. That's what we want. I mean, I know a lot of people, but when you talk to these guys, they just know everyone. So it's a great entry for all the other players on an international level, and not just ones we know about. There'll be other investment banks, etc., etc. So look, we're not. We could be there to mine it if it's unsuccessful, but at the end of the day, I think there'll be plenty of players.
Yeah, and does this go back to, again, your point, as you said, I believe you mentioned that you've floated 4 companies, that what it takes to get a company from, I guess, the starting line to the end line. Is just in your mind the natural process, if you will?
I've been involved with companies that have been mining, like Image Resources, and they're still mining. They're making a lot of money. They took quite a while to get there. And part of the problem is if it takes too long, then your share capital gets diluted and the original shareholders don't do very well. So I'm trying to maximise it for the existing shareholders, not new ones, for example. So I understand the process takes a while, but unfortunately it can take too long. And we're in a great M&A market, so let's take advantage of it.
Yeah, and also I think that, and I'm just curious, have you seen this? There's so much international uncertainty. Obviously, we don't know if Putin's going to invade tomorrow or not. Do you think that by being in WA, there is just a rule of law that should command a premium?
Well, certainly sovereign risk is low, and that's important. There's a lot of mining being done in WA. You can see the West Australian Premier's been protecting the borders, and part of the reason is so he can get all the income from all the mines. There's a lot of mines, a lot of operations in all the different commodities and oil and gas, etc., etc. So yeah, so it's very important to work in WA and not disrupt.
Yeah, and also when we look at magnetic, maybe turning to what a buyer would see out of the company or a strategic partner. Can you just explain that you also have an asset near Julimar that would represent some other upside optionality? Can you just discuss that a little bit?
Okay, there is another gold project called Homeward Bound, which is 40 kilometres to the west of Forbes S9. And that project has got thick intersections, and we'll be testing that probably within a week, starting to drill it. A very small program. But that looks pretty interesting too, so we'll be testing that. Julimar is a nickel palladium play east of Chalice's Julimar discovery. It was picked up on the basis of interpretation of the aeromagnetics, which is what I do. There's a number of intrusions on here that look pretty interesting. Some of them are 2 kilometres in length. And there's one project called Benzia Bearing, which is a lookalike for the Julimar complex, the whole complex, which is about 25 k's in length. And that looks pretty good. So at the moment, we've got access to one project, the training project, and we'll be testing that, and we'll be working, moving on to the other ones when we have access. So it does have upside in the nickel palladium space. There is a lot of interest in those projects from other players, but at the moment it's still in the company, and we're planning to do initial work probably next month.
Right. And, you mentioned about, WA, the borders being closed, although they are going to open up in a couple of weeks' time. Have you had any issues at all with just getting people onto sites, getting equipment? Because we're hearing lots of horror stories, candidly, from companies just really struggling from that perspective.
Look, the costs have gone up. The drilling costs have gone up. Obviously, the diesel costs have gone through the roof. Buying, drilling bits or whatever, they're all gone up. So we see it in our space. The cost of hiring people has gone up. So what we can do, we stick with the people that we have, and we try to keep them happy and make them stay. And they've been operating there the driller's been operating for me for about 3-4 years, almost continuously. And the field operation guys have been there for 2 years. So we do our best to try to keep them and make it easy for them. Very rarely we try to get others in, because we want to make sure that these guys are happy. So we've kept it that way. And from my understanding, it is hard to get rigs. The time to get your results can be really delayed. So we change labs to get, receive our results a lot quicker. But even so, it can get faster, but there is so much work happening in WA that, costs have gone up, delays in assays, etc. We'll be there for a little bit longer.
Right. But I think that, all those points you just touched on are what I call the devil in the detail, which is this about the execution of how to run a business, how to keep people happy, and so forth and so on? How even, if you can save $1 in the short term, it's really just not a good look, and it's one of these soft things about how to manage a business. Is that what, some of the tricks you've learned along the way?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, yeah, so we're pretty close to the people. You go out for lunch with them and, keep the peace and try to make sure everything's going well. So I think it's just like a friendly group. It's working together and tries to improve the operations in the field.
Hey, George, unfortunately, we have to keep these interviews short. Do you have any closing remarks for the audience?
Yes, I do. And I guess the company is in a great position. We're finding these extremely high-grade areas right near surface. We've got the interest from our neighbours, and that process has already started. The data room is ready to go. So I guess from a company's point of view, we've got the resource, we've got the interest, and over the next few months, we'll see what's going to happen. But it's a pretty exciting time for the company.
Great. Thanks, George. We look forward to the future with you.
Okay, thanks, Greg. See you again.
Bye-bye. Thank you for watching another presentation by 180 Markets. Don't forget, if you want access to thousands of ASX capital raises, head on over to 180markets.com.au, sign up, and get on board for our very next capital raise. Thanks for watching.